call, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. PSR is excited to present to you Last Call, featuring your boy, the Pimp Slap POD, Mike M.
We are live, and you are here. Let's go, Billy Bridge. How you doing, Dutch? What up, brother? Doctor, what's up, brother? LJ from the HLJ.
Mike, man, happy to be here, man.
T on the ones and twos, -7.5, the official number we'll use, and the lines move 2 points. And this is not a show to be late for.
And now, let's get to the picks.
We be pumping! Last call, you got it. TGIF, we're here, and we are ready to rock and roll. Shout out to everybody that's here and ready to kick butt early here tonight. And we have ourselves a Friday card. It's going to be a nice night tonight. We got a couple of college championship football games we're going to pop off here to start the show. Then we're going to get into the NHL. We got college basketball and the NBA all in play today. And I'm fired up to bring on a show debutante in our guy, Parlay Tease. Tease and I have been going back and forth, sharing common ground in that Philadelphia lineage, if you will, and I'm excited to get his takes tonight. You know, he does the WNBA better than anybody, and he's out there kicking butt in college basketball as well. So very excited to have our guy make his show debut tonight and share a couple looks for us out there. Real interesting card, because when you kind of look at this thing overall, kind of a couple small spots in college football, getting ready for the big, it's almost like the appetizer for the big main event tomorrow with college football championship game weekend. Then you've got the NBA and a handful of games in the NBA, but boy, some tricky spots out there. College basketball, kind of a Friday spot. We know the MAAC kind of takes the main stage on Fridays, but the challenge for me when it comes to, at least the FanDuels, DraftKings, and the legal books is there's a lot of New York teams in that MAAC, and it makes it difficult for me to get in there. I still find some spots to hit and hammer away on, but we'll talk mostly about some of the later games in the day there in college basketball. We had a day yesterday in college basketball, so we want to run it back. Things are starting to heat up there. And, of course, we've got hockey. There's only 2 games in the NHL tonight, but I ended up with 3+ money spots that I'm pretty fired up about. So I'm excited to share those with you guys as well. You know the deal here. It's last call. It's Friday. It's 6 p.m. I know everyone's getting home from work. They're trying to get it ready, trying to get it right. They're looking at the weekend ahead. Do we order the pizza? Do we go out for dinner? It don't matter. Put it all aside for an hour. We are in a situation to go through this card and try to find spots to get everybody paid. You guys know the deal out there in the chat. Toss your plays in there for us to talk about and review as a whole. Means nothing without you guys dropping in here, showing the love, sharing your plays, hitting that thumbs up like button to help us out and deliver bigger, better things. And we're excited to be here for you guys. So I appreciate the opportunity. Again, we're going to close another week. We're going to this is going to be the 5th full week of last call, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So a couple of short weeks there with Thanksgiving, and we've got the holiday season upon us. So lots going on, which is why it's even more important to get that notification bell registered so that as we move forward, you guys don't have time. You're going to the Christmas parties. You're going Christmas shopping. All you need to do is jump in at 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and we will share those winners for you and try to help you guys get paid while you're doing those other things that happen this time of year that distract us from the bankrolls. But again, we'll shout out everybody in the chat. We'll talk about yesterday's games as a big picture and break down the record that you'll see scrolling across the bottom. And then we'll move on and we'll start breaking down this card tonight, getting you guys away from here by 7 p.m. so you have time to get the college basketball plays. And the NHL's got some early starts tonight. For only 2 games, they really are trying to get out of there fast. And, of course, college football is going to pop off at 7 p.m. So quite a bit happening right at 7. And then I think things will slow down a little bit more, making way for that big Oregon-Washington State or Washington game. And we will talk about them both. So shout out to our guy, Markel. There's Justin McElvey out there. Stacks POD, like Xavier plus 8.5. I always I like that spot too, by the way. You got it at 9.5, and you'll see the Stacks record 107 and 105. Interesting, because I always struggle. Like there's some 6 o'clock games and some 6:30 games that I like today, but because of the show start time, I'm forced to look a little further in the card. It's not fair to start talking about games that have already started and break those down. Just a waste of time. So we do appreciate our guy coming in there, giving us some of those looks early, mid, late. It don't matter. Let's get to the window. Joey Harp, Ian Shaber, all the guys are here. Tony Trill, Let's go, baby. Andrew K. stoked for the Pac-10 championship. Should be a good game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll talk more about that game here shortly in a few minutes. Jay Smooth, Money Mike, let's get this bag. We need the bag tonight. We're kind of kicking it around idle, and we've had a couple of big days and then a lot of middling days, and it's frustrating. We had a couple spots yesterday that in the NBA did not get there for us, and after we left the show here, I went into that live stream for the NFL game and started talking a little bit about that first half over. Got some spots that won, got some spots that lost, but let's talk about it. Let's break those down real quick. Let's get this reviewing. We'll give everybody some time to jump in and get it ready. We'll get this thing rolling, moving forward here. And it was a 7 and 8 day. It was a huge card. I couldn't break it down in cutting room floor. More of at least the right opportunities made the cutting room floor, right? So it wasn't a great day from the lean side of the house. But the Dallas Cowboys first half -4.5. I don't want to hear any more about how the Cowboys are for real. I specifically told you on this show, when it's a big opportunity for Dallas to step forward, Dak steps back, and of course he took a lot of sacks. Now they got the game, they won the game, but they were losing that game right to the very end. And, from a Dallas perspective and Dallas fans, you can't be feeling good. You certainly can't be in a position of comfort and strength here. We'll see what's going to really happen this weekend with that Eagles and San Fran game. That should be the deciding factor for home field in the NFC Championship game, and then ultimately who's going to advance, in my opinion, to the Super Bowl. But we did take that L. How much time are we in here? We're 30 seconds away, or I would give you my full F-bomb rant on the Dallas Cowboys, but the first half -4.5 didn't get the job done. We did cash with New Jersey. Nice little Philly spot that we talked about there. Fade in Philadelphia. They break goaltenders. Carter Hart lets up 4 goals, 4-3 W for New Jersey. Low juice spot, too, for New Jersey. And Jack Hughes, if you don't know the name, write it down, because this guy, he's a firecracker, man. You look at his numbers, and they look like, PlayStation-type numbers, where he's got, 10 shots on goal, but he's registered, 8 points. And it's like, how the hell? I mean, the guy's just finding a way to pass it to help his players out. He's scoring goals himself. He's seeing the net very well right now. And there's our Pittsburgh Penguins spot. Another game, they fell down 2 goals early, came back, they got the W for us. It was a nice plus money spot. Chicago Blackhawks, there's a spot where we said it. They can't win 1, or they can't win 2 in a row, and they haven't in their last 9. Now it's 10, because they haven't won 2 in a row in their last 10 games. So the Blackhawks are on notice, in my opinion. And then Nashville, Nashville Predators, UC Saros, they were just down and out of that thing, much like Chicago, almost right off the hop. So some disappointment there. The Oilers got the job done for us. We talked about that Edmonton Oilers teams heading in kind of different directions, and the Oilers are moving in the right direction with that new coach, new coaching staff, and a new attitude and lease on life with some dialed down stats. Shout out to our guy, Sammy Calmer. What up, Sammy Calmer? Appreciate you dropping in. Big Scott says, Mike, do we give St. Mary's one more chance to get off the shit list? We'll talk high level about that one. We got Vancouver. We took an L on Vancouver. We've got the under in that Oklahoma game was a blowout, and you could tell in that first half that thing was going way over the numbers. So, hey, at least there wasn't a lot of emotional investment in watching that game. Illinois State, though, +7, won outright. We'll take that +7. Lamar, we got the 3.5s, even 4s were out there. We got that W. And we talked about that Creighton spot. Creighton coming back off of that loss there, and Colorado State loss, came back, got that job done in the first half, covered the full game as well. And one of the cutting room floor spots for me was that first half in Oregon State, and they did not cover. They did end up winning the game, but they did not cover. Then we had a 1 and 2 day in the NBA. We lost the Nets -8.5. We did win the Bucks first half -4.5, so that was a nice W, and the Hawks -6.5. Just a tough day all in all for really our big sports there in the NHL and the NBA. College basketball was kind of our savior out there. And hey, we're still boosting a healthy profit here. We're still moving forward. You look at the lean side of the house there, not much better, right? We talked about Lamar money line. That was like a little sneaky spot there where maybe they could get it done. They did not. The Washington Capitals did pull off the victory, so shout out to them. The Islanders in that under-6 Carolina Islanders battles, they might have to go on notice as well, because those are now starting to look like some overfest. Overtime drove that game to the over. The Montreal team total under 2.5 did cash, but the Kachuk Florida parlay at +195 did not cash. So, again, a 4 and 4 day. Really just a middling day, right? Just kind of like right in the middle, average, nothing spectacular. We're still living to fight another day, and we're still a healthy 18 units up. So let's talk about tonight's card and let's find out how we're going to get paid here. You guys know the situation. When our guy loads it up, you'll see the right-hand side. He's going to show you the agenda, if you will, the games that we're going to cover from my card tonight. Across the top will be the plays that we have, whether they're official plays or they're leans. And then across the bottom, you guys will see the information around splits, cash management. We'll talk about the cash flow management as well. Important things to notate as we look forward. It's helped us move off of some plays. It's helped us move onto some plays. And that's what it's all about. And I see our guy back there saying Embiid is out. Maxey's a game time decision. And yeah, I think that makes sense because Embiid's got that sickness. He was a last minute scratch there for that Philadelphia New Orleans game in the NBA. We'll talk much about that here. I've got a look on that Sixers game, but I was concerned that Embiid might be out, and that number was kind of a little wonky to me. So anyhow, let's talk about college football. Let's break it down. Let's get into this first game we're going to talk about here. We're going to look at this New Mexico State Liberty game, 7 p.m. Eastern, start here on the East Coast. The numbers opened up at 14. They were saying a 2-touchdown favorite for Liberty. And now here we've got 60% of the bets and 66% of the cash saying that was way too many points. We got it down to plus 10.5. The total is at 57.5, even 58, with 78% of the cash and 82% of the bets shooting that number up. Interesting though, is it looks like the Sharps are willing to take a crack at the New Mexico State money line, which is kind of a little crazy in my opinion. We have only 17% of the bets, but 59% of the cash rocking on that New Mexico State spot on the money line. It moved it from plus 455 to plus 350. So kind of an interesting move when you look at it, right? That's a huge adjustment when you think about, the money line on a double-digit dog, and they're on the road. So it's like really kind of a perplexing spot. But as I looked at this thing, you'll see across the top, I'm rocking in that New Mexico State spot. I think it's way too many points here. When these two teams played prior, pretty solid or a decent sized favorite, I should say, with New Mexico State. They've moved it to neutral site and they changed the total by a pretty significant amount. And I don't know that the neutral site warrants that kind of a change here. So, at the end of the day for me, when I was looking at New Mexico State here, weekday New Mexico State, I'll take a step back. New Mexico State struggled early in the season, right? They didn't cover a couple of spreads right off the hop. Since then, they've been nothing but a covering machine. Weekday games for New Mexico State. So as long as they're not playing on a Saturday, they're 12-2 against the spread, and they're covering by almost 9 points a game. So a pretty healthy margin there when you look at a dog at a 12-2 covering by 9. If you look at the total on the spread itself at 10.5, that potentially does lean to the possibility of being a live dog. I'm not sure that I'm going to get there with the 10.5 points, but I will take the 10.5 points. The under also is a number that's in play. In that same spot for New Mexico State, those games have gone under. It's 3 overs, 9 unders in a 12-game span with 2 pushes. And the number I notated was the first half. The average was around 28 points. So couldn't get there as far as the total on this game itself. But New Mexico State, unbeaten conference home favorites when the line's less than minus 17 points, are 9-20 against the spread as well. And one of the spots that you guys have heard me talk about before is this rushing possibility. When your last game, you rushed over 300 yards and your opponent's average on the season is less than 225 rushing yards, it kind of shows like you had an explosion. Maybe you played a weaker opponent, but you were able to break out and really dial up. What that does is that wears down your offensive line for that next game. The recoil rate's not as successful as you would think. And your opponent not rushing very much tells me that they're out there. They're using their offensive line a little bit more strategically. They're finding maybe ways to pass the ball down the field, as we're seeing with New Mexico State covering the spread. That number, when you've rushed for over 300 and your opponent's average is less than 225, that's a 20-24 spot against the spread. So certainly not a confidently striking number to go out there and think about taking Liberty in this Conference USA spot. Again, I'm going to go to New Mexico State here. New Mexico State after a conference game, too. Here's another one for you. Maybe this is why it's a live dog. When New Mexico State played a conference team and they're coming back and playing another conference team, or they're after a conference game, they're 7-0 straight up. They're covering that margin. They're winning by 12 points. Think about that 10.5 that we just talked about. So they're covering by 12 with a 10.5 spread. And when you look at the number against the spread, if they're 7-0 straight up, they're 7-0 against the spread. They're covering the spread by 15.65 points. Those unders are alive as well. It's 1-6 to the under. So Some really strong thoughts I had there. New Mexico State 16-0 against the spread going back to October 2022 when their last game did not go over the total by more than 13 points. Too many points, way too many points for New Mexico State, in my opinion here. And I think it's going to be a lot closer a game. I think it is going to come down to that last possession. I wouldn't be surprised to see it be a 3-point win one way or the other. It doesn't much make a difference to me. So, give me that New Mexico State spot. Let's take advantage of that thing and let's keep it rocking. Shout out. I see our guys back there ready to rock. We're about to get this train moving down the track so that we can get to college basketball. Mark Schillenberg. What up, Mark? Good to see you out there. Kelly V says SMU quarterback broke his leg last week. That's certainly going to be a factor for that game. And Kelly says Liberty is home, right? So Justin McElvey, Tori Coco, Burger King. I missed that. I'm not sure what Burger King sounds okay. My Burger King's real slow. They take 20 minutes in the drive-through, and it just drives me nuts. So, EQ says Embiid is out. Code red. Sound the alarm. Interesting spot there, Embiid, with that sickness. Best to keep him right away from the team. You don't want that thing to linger for the next month and blow any kind of momentum that they've created. And there's viral video. Says Mikey the man. Shoot, I think another parlay against Dallas -1, Dolphins -1. Interesting parlay there. Dana Delt. What up, Dana? Dana says a little inside info. Johnson's in a walking boot from the Hoosiers at the game. Listen to Money Mike last call, but still on the Hoosiers -2. Let's go. Let's talk about this next game. We're going to look at Oregon and Washington. Because this is a later game, I need to watch. I need to sit on this one for a little while and let it kind of percolate here. So, we'll talk about the splits. I'll give you guys the breakdown, and then I'll kind of share some of the thoughts I have, some of the trends that are associated with this one. The line opened at -7.5. It has moved 2 points. It's now -9.5 is the current number. We got 52% of the bets and 65% of the cash on Oregon. When you look at the total, it has dropped. 68.5 was the opening number. We've got 64% of the bets and 81% of the cash on the under, and the books are showing concern. That's my lean in this game here. I feel like this is a monster number. The thing that I've been kind of sitting on and what I have to consider here is the Penix Jr. factor. How hurt is he? And I need to dig into that a little bit more because, we're seeing that Washington, thumping teams down early in the season. But in the last 3 weeks, he won against Utah by a touchdown. They were laying 9.5 points. So he barely was able to get that job done when it comes to winning. But I shouldn't say barely. I mean, they won by a touchdown. Either way. Oregon State, right? They go out there. We know that Corvallis is a tough place to play. They were dogs in Corvallis, 1.5 point dogs. They did win outright by 2 points, but that was, again, another tight game within a single score. And then they play Washington State at home. They're laying 15 on Washington State with home field advantage. They end up only winning that game 24-21. I thought Washington State might have been a live dog in that spot. And interesting thoughts there when you look at it. On the flip side, and you evaluate Oregon did put the paddle down on Oregon State, 31-7. Now, granted, they were at home, so they had a little bit of an advantage there. They hammered Arizona State, 49-13. They took down USC, 36-27. That was kind of the pivotal point where, what's his name there, was Caleb Williams was crying on the sidelines to his mama. They got California. They whooped California 63-19. This Oregon team, you heard me say it all season long. They've been top grading players for the last 3 seasons. They bring them in, they ship them out. If you're not a good fit, if you're not going to be that A player, that diamond in the rough they're looking for, then pack your bags and get your ass out of there. And very much is the practice what they preach mentality. So I know a couple of guys that got out that way. Were there. They're recruiting them for 6 months to a year. They bring them out there. They get them a red shirt. Then they put them in practice, and they're not even on the team 3 weeks later. So they were not afraid to pull the trigger quickly. They knew what they were looking for, and they knew that this Pac division was wide open as an opportunity. So it's going to be a competitive game. I see the 66 is still out there, so it's a good number for me. I'll share with you guys a couple of numbers that I had for this game as well. When you've got the two ranked teams are playing each other with less than 2 losses and the total's over 48, the favorite is 43-29. So that does support an Oregon spot. The over is 48-24. With 30 first half points being scored in that range or that median there that I was telling you about. Well, the first half total is like 33.5. So that's a little high for me to get involved in that. That's a 3-point spot over the number. And again, that Penix factor to me is the wild card here. I just don't know what's going on. Washington has a 9.5 point favorite. 7 times an undefeated team wasn't at least a 3.5 point favorite versus a non-undefeated team in a conference championship game. All 7 times the game has gone under. right? So 7 times an undefeated team wasn't at least a minus 3.5 point favorite, and they're playing a non-undefeated team in a conference championship game. It's gone under 7 times in a row. If Penix is really hurt and he can't get that ball out there, we've seen that, Oregon's willing to play down to their competition and keep it tighter. Granted, they'll still come out there convincingly and maybe cover the spread, but Washington, again, 9.5 point dog in this spot, being ranked 3rd in the nation. Teams ranked in the top 3 that are more than 9-point dogs are 0-9 against the spread. They failed to cover the spread in those spots by over 17 points a game. I know you might be thinking that Washington line is tempting, but I would say think again. I like that under probably the most of anything here. We are seeing the steam coming in on it. And, again, if Penix Jr. is hurt, Oregon's defense is pretty stout. I don't know that they just let him come out there and have their way with the game. Either way, should be a ton of fun to watch. That's just kind of where my headspace is with this game right now. I am leaning towards Oregon, and I am leaning towards that under. As far as the play that I'm more confident in at this point, I like that under, probably more than not here. I don't know that we see a 100-point game here, and I think it's going to be a tighter pace. So there you go. There you have it. Let's talk about some NHL. Let's keep this thing rolling. We got 2 games to cover. We should be keeping a very brisk pace here tonight. Shout out to Viper MB. What up, Viper MB? Kelly V says line reads Oregon to smoke them. Yeah, they should smoke them. Just a big, yeah. I mean, it's probably that 9 for a reason, right? The books know what's up. They know if Penix Jr. is hurt, and it looks like he is hurt. So, we'll see. I don't know how their calculators or the computers cover that, but Nasty Nate says Celtics smash. New Mexico State smashes. Let's go. I hope one of those does get the job done. But your Celtics are playing my Sixers, Nasty Nate. That's gonna be an interesting spot. But no Embiid, I think we're just gonna chalk this one up and give it to you. We'll let you have this one at home, and we'll see what happens later down the season. It's kind of where I think they're going there. But let's talk about this NHL spot here. We got a couple of games on the ice today to talk about with you guys here. The first game we're going to cover, we're going to look at this Ottawa-Columbus game. And, I want to make sure I'm on the same page as my guy. I changed some order up, and I probably shouldn't have done that after I sent him the final cut. So, let that be a lesson. Don't make changes after you send the final cut. Otherwise, it's not a final cut. Let's go. Let's get serious here. We're talking Ottawa, Columbus. We have Korpisalo with Ottawa. We have Merzlikins in net with Columbus. And interesting spot. 3.34 goals against average for Korpisalo, 90.2 save percentage. 3.11 goals against average for Merzlikins, 90.7 save percentage. Away favorites, when their loss of the margin is less than their opponent's loss of the margin, 7 and 23 to the under. That spot was alive last night for Florida. If you'll remember, we talked about that specific situation where your margin of loss was less than your opponent's margin of loss. That was a spot where Florida was alive the previous night. 7 and 23 to the under. Florida scored a bunch of goals, but the other side of it couldn't keep up there. So when you're the favorite and you've got more than 8 power play saves that last game, you're 12 and 23 to the under as well. So another number that strongly suggests that under. I see 7s out there now, which is kind of interesting to me. Korpisalo, his last game out, not a great spot for him. He let 5 goals in on 38 shots. It was an 86.8 save percentage. Ottawa has lost 2 straight. They can't score. They're finding a tough time getting the back of the net. They've been outscored 10-3 in those last 2. Columbus, they've lost 2 of their last 3. Columbus's offense ranks 8th worst in the NHL at 2.88 goals for a game. And as far as Merzlikins, he's been 90% or better in 7 of his last 8 games. So very much an interesting note where he started the season off playing pretty poorly, sub 87%, save percentage. His 7 of his last 8, though, these rebound. The challenge I have with the side is he's 2-5-1 in those 8 games that have been played out there. So as much as he's saving it at over 90%, the 2-5-1 number jumped off the page to me. That fact that Columbus offense can't get the job done certainly concerns me. The Blue Jackets have seen 5 of their 7 wins get done on the home ice. Kind of made me think about that Blue Jackets side of things here. But what I've looked at here is I see that everybody, their brother and their mother is on the Ottawa Senators. I don't necessarily look at the money line to influence the decision, but 91% of the bets and 96% of the cash are on the Ottawa Senators, the road Senators. It's only the Senators. They've only played 4 road games thus far this season. So, it's not a spot where I would necessarily want to jump in on Ottawa, but I do like the fact that there's not going to be any goals. I lean to this Columbus side of things, but give me the under 6.5. The under 6.5 is a plus 115. It's a healthy plus 115 across the board. You can take the 7 if you want. I don't want. I want to take that opportunity with the number. I think we got two teams that are finding a tough time, finding the back of the net. And we've got 1, a rebound possibility for Korpisalo, and 2, Merzlikins is playing better than he started off the season. So give me the under 6.5 in that game. We'll take that plus money shot at it. And I lean to Columbus. We'll see if I feel, punchy by the end of the show here, because that would be the other play I would take is Columbus. So let's talk about the Sharks game, and then let's bring our guy in here to talk some college hardwood and the hoops, baby. We got college basketball tonight across the nation. Should be a lot of fun. And Kelly V says Korpisalo the goalie against the former team. I think that's more motivation for Korpisalo to come out here and get the job done. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to that game. I think that should be a good one. Let's talk about this game, though. We're going to look at the San Jose Sharks New Jersey Devil spot. And we have Kakinen on the side with the Sharks at 2-6. We have Vanacek at 8-5 for the Devils. Kakinen at a 4.12 goals against average is just about as bad as it gets at 88.9%. We could probably stick Justin McElvey out there and say better than 4.122 goals against average. So on the Vanacek side, he's 3.48 goals against average with an 87.9% save percentage. He's not necessarily lighting a career up either. He's not having a career stellar year. What I did look at, though, is when you're the home team and you won 15 or more faceoffs that previous game, what's finding here is that it's going over. It's gone over 14 out of the last 18 times when you're winning faceoffs. What that tells me is you're winning the puck, you're winning those opportunities at the line, you're gaining possession of the puck, and you're scoring goals. And they're scoring goals at a high clip. They're scoring goals at an average in that 18-game span at 7.6 points. So 7.6 goals. The average is 3.6 to 4 in favor of the road team, though. So, right now we've got a spot where, we talked about the one loss in, let me find this number here. Let me see if I can find it out right here. I think I deleted it. Either way, the number that I'm leading with here, because I saw that margin there, when I've got a team that's played New Jersey, Edmonton, St. Louis, or Montreal, they won the last game 14-4 to the over, 3.6 to 4 goals. I'm going to take a shot with, first of all, I'm never going to take a shot at a minus 500. And, I'm not crazy enough to think that there's value in San Jose. There's no value in losing. Now, if you want to just blindly play the over 300 spot, I got numbers that would show you don't do that, because it is actually a profitable spot to just blindly play the teams that are minus 300 or higher this season and last season collectively combined. But I wouldn't do that. I'm not getting involved in that. What I do want to see is I do want to see some goals. I think we have two goalies that are very much suspect. Yeah, New Jersey's got 3 straight wins. They've outscored their opponents 16-9. For me, though, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to get involved in that Jersey side. I don't even want to lay the minus 1.5, and I certainly don't want to fuck around with a minus 2.5. That's just not how I'm going to roll. Kakinen, on the other hand, though, has won 2 of his last 3. There's really no advantage from a rest perspective, because both of these guys are coming off a back end of, back-to-back games, right? New Jersey played yesterday in Philadelphia. We were on the Jersey side of things. San Jose played yesterday in Boston. They got shut out. They got shut out 3-0 against a Boston team that was very hungry after losing back-to-back games in a spot that they came back and they were confident and triumphant on their home ice. That being said, though, not excited to back a team in New Jersey that's 1-10 on the puck line at home this season. So not a lot of oomph or emphasis out there. There's just not a lot of return on the investment. Where I think the return on the investment is for this game is going to be taking the San Jose Sharks team total over. Give me over 2.5. I gave you guys the stat where I see a 4-goal spot for San Jose. Do they get 4? I don't know. I just need them to get to 3 at this point. I don't care if they win the game. I don't care if they lose the game. Give me 3 points off the hop. Let's take that 3 and let's get that cash. That's a plus money spot as well. So we got the under 6.5 in Ottawa at plus 115. We've got the San Jose team total over 2.5 at plus 140. Both active numbers on FanDuel, and I see the DraftKings number out there for the under 6.5. So those are the spots that we're looking at for hockey. And I see our guy just popped up from his chair. So we'll get back to him momentarily and bring on our guest. But let's talk about college basketball here, because I do have a couple of plays myself. We'll flip the screen, we'll get things rolling, and we'll bring on our guy. I mentioned it on the pre-hop of the game here. He's a WNBA extraordinaire. Hasn't found a WNBA game he can't make a play out of. And he knows those girls' names better than their life partners do. So we'll bring him on, though, to talk about what he's doing in college basketball, because he's been firing gas in the hardwood hoops here in college men's arena. and I'm excited to share the screen with him. It's going to be his debut for Last Call, and I know he's prepared. He's got a couple of games to share with you guys. We'll pick his brain on some of the other spots I have off the fly, and let's bring him in. Let's welcome our guy, Parlay Tease. Tease, what's up, my guy?
What up, Mikey? Appreciate you having me on, man. It's good to be here.
Fuck yeah, man. I wouldn't have it any other way, dude. I'm excited. You know, you said you wanted to get involved with college basketball, and I was like, hell yeah, let's go, man. I've only had a couple of years that I've been dabbling into the basketball side of things, but I find it's a lot of numbers-driven opportunities, and I know that you know a lot more detail about these guys than most. So I'm excited, man. I got a couple of games myself. We'll see on the side of the screen there. We've got your games kind of highlighted in yellow. Mine are kind of highlighted in the white, I guess, or maybe that's not a highlight. Maybe that's just white. But, let's get rocking, dude. Let's talk about these games here. What I'll do is I'll kind of read off the cash flow, the splits about this thing, kind of set the table for the game itself. And then, any opinion you have, if you have it on the games that I've highlighted, that's great. And if not, then certainly we'll make sure that we cover the games that you have as well. So if that sounds good to you, let's rock.
Appreciate you, man. Cheshire Cat, of course, man. I've always got my eye on that. What's up, Mark Schillenberg? It's good to see everybody, man. Appreciate you having me here. Let's talk about the first game that's going to go off. Norfolk State versus VCU. This game right here, kind of look at it. You got a 5-3 team versus a 4-3 team. And, at your first glance, you're probably thinking VCU. But if you dig a little deep in these numbers, Norfolk State is probably going to win this game outright. At least the first half, I would think. The way I'm looking at this, and I kept going back to this game because I just wanted to make sure that I was comfortable with giving this play out. But all the numbers tell me that Norfolk State is the spot. Norfolk State scoring 77 points per game versus VCU's we'll say 70%. We'll round it up to 70%, but 69 points. Sorry, 69 points per game. But the biggest telling thing here is when I started looking at this is the offensive rating. You have a decent offensive rated team in Norfolk State, and a decent defensive rated team in Norfolk State. And Norfolk State, I mean, as far as VCU goes, they're around ranked about 200, little over 200th in the NCAA as an offensive rating for them, where Norfolk State is ranked in the top 100 in the defensive side. So you match those two up, and I think it's going to be hard getting buckets against this Norfolk State team for VCU, especially when they're shooting 32% from three, and their field goal percentage is around 45%. I just see a faster paced team with Norfolk, and I think this is going to be a team that VCU has trouble keeping up with, and it's crazy because you look at this game and I just don't see many people taking Norfolk State in this game. So I haven't looked at the numbers on this. You called them out, so you know them better than I do.
I see 51% of the bets, 83% of the cash though on that Norfolk State side of things. So there are 12s and 12.5s out there. So the public looks kind of split, but the bigger money's with you and where this thing is here. I agree. I mean, you said it just right. As far as the game itself, is Norfolk State alive? I mean, we talked about Norfolk State just the other day on the show when they beat the shit out of William and Mary. And I was on William and Mary. I was on the green and gold. And I was pretty high on that team this year. And I think I still am, but they might have found their way to the shit list. That is the last game they had, though. They were 3.5-point favorites. They beat them up by 34 points. So no slouches out there. They came out there and literally kicked the shit out of them. On the flip side of things, though, VCU, they rank 140th in offensive efficiency. They're a 56% shooting 2-point team, but they're really not a strong 3-point shooting team. And I thought the advantage for Norfolk is they're not afraid to draw fouls. When you look at what they did out there to get those fouls against William and Mary, They did it early, they did it often, and they did it to close the game out too. The thing was game over almost from the hop. They generate a lot of turnovers, and they shoot in the top 60th in the country from free throw perspective as well. And that's where these games really matter, right? When it comes down to it at the end is, what do they do when it comes time and their feet are on the line? And Norfolk's shown they can get it done.
Absolutely. And, that's one of the big things that I look at is free throw shooting percentage. I mean, I don't usually play the full games, so free throws don't really come into play too much, except for later in the half. But you're going to give me 7.5 with Norfolk State in the first half on the road. I think they come in there, and I think they bitch slap friggin' that VCU right off the bat. Now, VCU, I think we'll see how they adjust to it, but I think they're absolutely a live dog. And, I took the 7.5, and I sprinkled a half unit on the money line just because I couldn't stop myself on it, And if Jamari Thomas, he's a guard for Norfolk State. If he goes off like he did against William and Mary, man, this could be a long night for VCU.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand there. My play is the 7.5 with first half, taking the 7.5 with Norfolk State, and I sprinkled the money line. But I mean, I couldn't look any other way. If you can't get first halves, I couldn't look any other way but taking the 12.5 with Norfolk State.
Yeah, I mean, I see the 7.5s out there. Minus 112 is what FanDuel is right now. I see that money line's plus 310.
Yeah, it's worth it, man.
You don't have to twist my arm too hard to get excited about a spot like that. And you're right. I think it is a team that's, I'm not a big fan of some of these, A10 matchups and the way that they kind of get things done. So, that with the Norfolk State team, like I said, that played, I think the runner up in that conference is going to be a spot with William and Mary, and they handled their conference. So put them on the road against a VCU team that, is somewhat suspect at 4-3 on the season. I like it. Let's lock it in. Let's talk about it.
Norfolk State they're actually in the MEAC. Yeah. So, and I think William and Mary's in the Colonial, but I mean, as far as the MEAC goes, you don't hear of too many, people betting MEAC teams just because they're not, normally that good, but I think you have an exception here with Norfolk State. I think, they've been able to handle their own, even in the games that they've lost. They've, it hasn't been against Wichita State. It was a game. I mean, they tried to make it a game at the second half. They went down a little too much in the first half. But it's just a team that I like, that I've had my eye on since the beginning of the year, and I think this is a good spot for them. Good spot for us to make some money on tonight.
Well, it looks like your second game up is going to be this South Carolina and George Washington game, right? So let me pull this up so I can look at the cash flow and the splits here, and then we'll get you going and talk about what this thing looks like here. So we opened up at 10. We're at 9s and 8.5s. 65% of the bets, 65% of the cash are on the George Washington side, and then as far as the total, it's open at 149.5. That's pretty much where it sits right now. 69% of the bets, 67% of the cash on the over with no movement. So interesting spot there. I'd love to hear your side on this game here. Take it away for us.
Yeah. You have an undefeated team in South Carolina. They're 6-0 against a one-loss team, 6-1 George Washington, A10 team like you just talked about. And but I mean, you really got to look a little deeper into this. And basically, I think you have an offensive juggernaut in George Washington. They're averaging 84 points per game versus 74 against with South Carolina. But the big thing here is the defensive rating for George Washington is just sick, man. Their defensive rating is 37th in the country at 92.9. But I mean, South Carolina's got a pretty, top 100 offensive rated team. But I really think that the offense of George Washington is the defense is the key here. If they can make their buckets, I think that South Carolina's going to have a hard time, getting the ball in the cup. And if you're giving me 4 points for the first half. That's what I always bet. I always bet first halves if you don't know me. But I really like George Washington first half +4. And that's the play that I'm on. It's going a little deeper into this. You have. I'm sorry, I lost my spot.
Yeah.
I lost my spot on my
I
name.
do it all the time.
They both shoot about the same. You have George Washington shooting 58%, and I'm sorry, 46%, and 46.7 and 46.6 for George Washington and South Carolina. But I think the defense is where you get the advantage here with George Washington. And they played a decent schedule, and they played a lot of CAA teams. They played three Colonial teams, and they pretty much handled business. I think one of their best wins was their last game, and that was against Delaware. I liked Delaware in that game, and they just handled Delaware pretty easily. Delaware came out in the first half and just stomped all over their necks, but George Washington came out in the second half and scored 56 points and ended up winning this game by 10. So, I think that I really think that George Washington, when they put their mind to this, and I think they're going to be up for this game. I know they're going to be up for this game. Playing South Carolina, who's undefeated, I think that defense is going to come into play, man. And I think that South Carolina is going to have a tough time getting to the hoop.
I like it. I was thinking about that South Carolina spot, but the money movement is what scared me off it. So to hear that you're rooting on that other side of it, that you think that's going to be the direction, I'm going to stay off that South Carolina side then. And no Gamecocks for me. No way, not tonight. So appreciate that.
What did you say? What did you say the money wasn't on this?
It was where was it there? Let me pull it back up. It was 65%. So, and it's on George Washington's side, but it has moved. So there's been a little bit of late buyback. It's moved up to 9. There's a 4.5 for the first half out there now on a lot of the books. So very much we'll count the 4.5 as the official number for you here. But I can't say I disagree. I mean, it's like I said, originally I was thinking about that direction with South Carolina, but to see the number of points they have almost felt like it was that overreaction to the fact that they're 6-0. We've had a lot of success kind of fading those teams that have those blatantly better record. Not, I should say blatantly better, but in the George Washington spot, granted they played Delaware. Okay. But they were dogs and they came out and they won. They played UIC. They had a real tough contest in UIC. I think the challenge for me in this one is it's kind of like their first real road game, right? So this is their first time kind of putting the gas in the bus and taking it out on the street. So, or at least in the last week and a half or so, 2 weeks. So,
and that's why I think that they're the play in the first half. I think they come out and they want to kind of set the tone, and I think they're going to the spot where they can set the tone is defensively. Now I'm not saying that South Carolina won't adjust to this at the half and possibly get the cover for the full game, but I think first half George Washington definitely has the advantage here.
Yeah. All right, I like it. Let's rock and roll. Tease, I got a few games as well that I'll share. If you have any looks on them, by all means, jump in and let me know your thoughts. I started with the Incarnate Word Bethune Cookman game, and 58% of the bets, but 40% of the cash on Incarnate Word. What's interesting though is the line, depending on the side that you're looking at, hasn't much moved here. Bethune Cookman opened at +1.5. It sits at +1.5. And granted, 42% of the bets and 60% of the cash are on Cookman. We're just not seeing that movement. So when I looked at the overall money line as well, I see that Bethune started out at -104s and they're +105s right now. So, then I kind of dissected this game and jumped into it. And I saw, this is a number that we cashed on yesterday with Lamar. If you guys remember in the chat, Southland teams after and over have gone 29-17, winning 33 and 22. So 11 games of the advantage on the winning side. Lamar didn't win outright yesterday, but they did cover that spread for us. We got the hook in there, and that gave us enough to get to the window. And it's the same stat going into tonight as well. So Incarnate Word +1.5, spot for me. Short, sweet, to the point, guys. Do me the favor, if you haven't done so yet, hit that like button for us. Help us promote the brand. Show that you like what we're doing out here, and give us a little feedback as well. A little encouragement when we see those thumbs up buttons. Gets us all jacked up when we're putting these shows together. Tease, any thoughts on the Incarnate Word spot?
Yeah, actually, they actually were on my card for first half Incarnate Word, and to start out with, I always just make a card up, and then I start digging deeper. And what kind of took me off is just everything. These two teams are so similar with all their stats, but if you look at the defensive rating of Bethune-Cookman, they're just outstanding. Their defensive rating is 92.9, and that's good for 37th in the country. And that kind of scared me off it. I dropped them off the card real quick once I saw that. Bethune-Cookman's got a decent offense, but at the same time, you got a 203rd ranked, rated offense versus 37th rated defense. I think I'm going to just leave that one alone. So
yeah, I mean, I was just looking at the strength of the competition, and as far as kind of looking at who they're playing, right? So Bethune's played, really nobody of significance out there.
Yeah, absolutely, you're right. You're absolutely right on that. They played Minnesota and they got stomped out, but it could have been worse. They lost 80 to 60, but
Yep, and then they beat Charleston Southern. So
yeah,
okay, good for them.
But then he got
Lamar
beat up.
Yeah. Lamar came out there and slapped him right in the face. So it was an open palm slap too, 83-65. So and then Delaware State. Okay, no disrespect, but it's Delaware State. So
yeah,
and then if you look on the Incarnate Word side, granted Jacksonville State. That Jacksonville State game's a little misleading though, because they lost to them 67-65, but they had just beat them a couple games before that, right? So they beat them 67-66. Both those games they were dogs. They covered them both, but I just think that shows you there's a team that's willing to fight. UTSA on the flip side, that was a tough game for them against UTSA, and that's a Lamar. I don't know. I just look at this thing. I like the Incarnate Word spot. Let's keep it rolling. Let's talk about the next game. This is a big one. I know a lot of guys are looking at this spot here tonight. I jumped in on it myself. We've got this Maryland-Indiana game with the Hoosiers, and I think it was Kelly V in our chat that tossed in some comments there about who was it that she had mentioned was in the walking boot, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, we opened up at +2. There's +3.5s out there now. 29% of the bets, 36% of the cash on Maryland. So the bigger bets, the cash, the public are all jumping in on this Indiana side, and the total opened at 138.5. It has dropped down to 137.5. So it's even gone as low as 134.5 on a couple of books. So there's some big movement on that under. 68% of the bets and 80% of the cash are sitting there on this under. And you know what I like to do when I see a coin flip, or not a coin flip, but when I see the line hasn't moved a ton and it's only like 2 points or something like this in this game here, I start to look at the cash flow to see was there any kind of buyer significance, because sometimes people general attitude is screw the 2 points, I'll just take the money line if it's not that much more. And as I was looking at that, I see 85% of the bets, 62% of the cash on the Indiana side. It opened at -120. And it has moved to -130. So, a little bit of movement on the money line side that I wanted to see that kind of correlates with me on this one. And then as I kind of broke it down and I started looking at it, the big thing for me is home favorites in the Big Ten. They're 49-7 straight up. They're only 29-27 against the spread. But the average line in these matchups is almost 15 points. So I had a tough time making heads or tails of this thing and thinking, well, in a 2-point type of game, I lean more to what's the straight up number doing than I would looking at a spot where there's 15 points on the spread. It's a coin flip. They're almost 50-50 against the spread, but a 15-point number is significant. And the average score in those spots is 79-64. I think the Hoosiers, maybe the number's so low because of what they did their last game. They were playing against Harvard, right? And Harvard, really kind of bit them a little bit there. It took a big second half comeback for them to kind of look good and get the job done. So, but I think, and I don't know if it's necessarily a look ahead, but knowing that you're playing an Ivy League school and then you're traveling back home, to play a conference game is a big deal, right? So I thought that was just a big factor that I was willing to kind of forgive and forget. They score, though. They score 69 points or so in all 5 of their wins this season. And then if you look at Maryland, where I think the challenge is going to be for Maryland is Hoosier likes to wear teams down. And I think that, Maryland's, getting better at 3-point range. They're still only shooting 40%. And they're shooting 57.9% from the field. So that was against an overmatched, Rider team there. They beat up Rider. Okay, you put up 100 points on Rider, whatever. Go feel good for yourself here. But it just seems to me like the Hoosiers are ready to roll in this thing here. When I saw the number and I saw that spot where it was 49-7 straight up, I see the cash has moved in our direction as well. I wanted to jump in there and take advantage. I mean, Maryland's big win for the year, in my opinion, is Mount St. Mary's. That was kind of to start the season off. And then they kind of went on the skids. They hit the brakes, right? Davidson, UAB, the Villanova spots out there. When they played better competition, they kind of ran into the brick wall. And I think in this case here, Indiana is going to be that better competition. Any thoughts?
No, I agree with you there. If I was going to bet Maryland, it would probably just be a first half. But I don't, me, man. I'm not a big blue chip type better.
Yeah.
So these aren't really. This isn't really a game that I'm involved in. So I don't really have a comment on it. I just think that the thing that stands out for me the most is that game that Maryland played against Villanova, where it was just a ridiculously low scoring game. It was like 50, like mid 50s to 40 or something like that. And the Nova is just, they're just a good defensive team, but to hold this team to 40, it makes me think, like, can they score against Indiana tonight?
And I think what happens is that they get pushed back and they have to start taking shots from the parking lot.
Yeah.
And that's not their strength. That's not how they want to play the game. So I think that could be the trouble for them over the long haul. So I got the 2. I don't mind the 2. I was thinking about just saying screw it and taking the money line here, but that's basically a bucket for me. And I don't think it's going to come down to a bucket. I don't think it's the last team to have the ball wins this game type of thing. Let's keep it rolling. Let's talk about this next game. And then we got one more spot for you guys in college, and we're jumping over to the NBA. So we have our guy here. I want to pick his brain on a couple of these spots here for college hoops. We're going to look at this Arkansas Little Rock game here. He's not a blue chip guy, and frankly, neither am I, but I will take a shot on some of those bigger games. That being said, this might be right up the alley here. 7:30 Eastern start. Arkansas Little Rock opened up at a -1.5. 58% of the bets, 59% of the cash on the Little Rock side of things. Hasn't moved. So the bigger betting or more betting is coming in on that Little Rock side. Tells me that Vegas has the number right where they want it, and they're getting the action the way they should see it. When we look at the cash flow, though, we look at the fact that it's a +1.5, -1.5 spot. When we look at the money line, opened at -135. It's dropped 10 cents to -125. With 88% of the bets and 82% of the cash saying, screw it, I'm not going to mess with that 1.5. I'll just take the money line. We know what happens in spots like that. And we had one of these spots last night. Ohio Valley teams after and over are 19-42 straight up spots. 19-42. Yesterday we faded, or we took Rice last night. It was a lean for us. -5.5, moved all the way up to -7.5. Didn't matter. It's the same spot tonight for Little Rock, falling under that last game being an over. 19-42 against the spread. Give me Arkansas State +1.5. Any thoughts on that one?
Well, like I said, I don't usually bet the full game. So, if I didn't place anything on this game, but you having it up there and me looking at it, I think this is an Arkansas Little Rock first half spot. Just because you're going to have an Arkansas, I think Arkansas State's the better team as far as this matchup goes in this situation. But Arkansas Little Rock is, again, it's the competition that they played. So, but they're a point scoring machine, and I think that if Arkansas State, I think they could be up at the half, and I would take. I'm actually probably going to put this in Arkansas Little Rock at first half -120, just because I think they could be up at the half and then force Arkansas State to adjust, because Arkansas's offense is damn near ranked in the top 10 in offensive rating. compared to a down near the bottom defensive rated team in Arkansas State. So I think that Little Rock will be able to jump out to a lead, at least for the first 20 minutes, and see how Arkansas State adjusts to it.
Yeah, quite a few of these games with some of these numbers that we've looked at with the angles have been the benefit of playing the full game. So yeah, good point. There's that opportunity for them to kind of come out early, and then potentially what we see in the long haul, might be that they don't get the job done. I'm banking on them not getting the job done. The last game we're going to talk about on that hardwood here, we got Yukon and Kansas, the big one under the big lights, 9 p.m. Huge game tonight. The number opened up at -2. We see -2.5s and even starting to see some 3.5s out there. 52% of the bets and 69% of the cash sitting on Kansas. The total opened at 148.5. That's pretty much where it sits, a frozen total. 67% of the bets on the over. 43% of the cash, though, on the over. So some of the sharper betting coming in on that under. And there we go. So we've got a spot here with really, I think this is a big showdown opportunity. And I lean to Kansas in this thing here. For me, when I looked at it, I started off with kind of, who are these teams? Kind of what's their DNA or what's their makeup out there? And the teams that they're playing and how they're competing and challenging themselves. And I know that Yukon played a game against Indiana. I know they played Texas. But you got two defending. I mean, they're really the last two champion teams, right? So they're still kind of with that pedigree in their makeup and their wherewithal here. And I think Kansas comes in and really gives a tough time to Yukon. It's going to be a travel spot for Yukon. And there's one win that separates these two teams. I did have a big number for the trend that showed when you've got a favorite ranked team, both teams are ranked in the top 10, and there's less than 5 days of rest down there. It's 190 to 86 straight up for the Kansas spot. It's 167 to 106 against the spread as well, covering the spread by almost 2 buckets. So a couple of spots out there that kind of led me to that Kansas direction. I talked the other day about New Mexico, and I talked about how difficult it is, that home court advantage that they have in New Mexico. Probably Allen Fieldhouse is going to qualify as the toughest place to play. Those Kansas fans get rocking and rolling. I think it's going to be a hard spot for Yukon. There's no question the fans are going to be ready to go here. When I look at this thing, Kansas, they're going to have to play some defensive ball. They're not afraid to score. They're not afraid to take shots from the perimeter. And I think they want to push the pace in this game. They're averaging right now a situation where, they're where was the number that I had written down? 81.3 points. They do run the 38th top possession length in the nation, right? So in terms of the ball handling and the team that controls the possession the longest, they're 38th in the nation. But I think they're going to want to mix it up a little bit because Yukon likes to score a lot of points here. And I think they're going to have to match fire with fire. They're not going to just sit out there and let Yukon go out and put up 75 points on them and settle for a 70 spot and take a big L here. I think they're going to want to come out there. They're going to want to get to that 90 spot. We've seen Yukon put some 90s up there. I don't think this is a game where they're going to sit back and try to play a strong defensive effort, albeit if they do and they can get some blocks and some rebounds and keep Yukon under their season average. Yukon's averaging about 85, I want to say 85 points on the season. So you do have to slow them down a little bit, but I think when you get against a team like this, they're not going to come back and try to play cute on defense. I think they're ready to rock and roll and show that our guys are just as good, if not better than your guys, Tease. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge test for Yukon going into Allen Fieldhouse this early in the season. They played a ranked team in Texas and, beat them. The score wasn't a huge difference. They won by 10, but, they were in control of this game from start to finish. And I think Yukon gets it done in the first half here. And Bill Self can just, he's a good coach and he'll have this team adjusted and you get that crowd behind you at Allen Fieldhouse. It's definitely a spot that Kansas can win this game. The 3.5, I don't know if I want to lay that just because I think this is going to be a really close game. And this is very well could be a championship or at least a Final Four matchup here early in the season. And, Yukon, Danny Hurley has this Yukon team, like they have them balling and their best player's not even been on the court yet. So it's just, they're just amazing, man. They're just so good, and they represent the Big East, man. And the Big East is just such I think they're probably the most competitive conference in the nation. And but at the same time, I can see Connecticut winning this game too. I stayed off. I did play Yukon first half, and other than that, I couldn't even flip a coin and tell you who's going to win this game. To be honest with you, I can't. I just want to sit back and watch it. I want to. After the first 20 minutes, I'm going to collect my money and just enjoy the next 20 minutes of basketball.
Well, it makes me nervous to hear you're thinking the other half or the other side of me, but your first half and I'm full game, guys, so we can both cash and
well, like I said, the coaching in Kansas is it's top notch, and he'll get that team adjusted at the half. If they're down at the half, you're going to see a different Kansas team in the half and in the second half. And with that, Allen Fieldhouse crowd behind you, I mean, that's one of probably the rowdiest crowds in basketball. And, that's tough to go in and play when you're 19, 20, 21 years old. So I can't say no, Mike, you made a bad bet here.
Well, I appreciate hearing that, man. And I appreciate you rocking with us tonight. I got you locked and loaded. VCU first half, plus 7.5, like a little sprinkle on that money line. I got the George Washington spot. Plus 4.5 we were able to get for you. So we appreciate you giving out your looks for the show tonight, man. Tell everyone where they can find you, what you got cooking this weekend.
Hold on. You got a sec that I can say one more thing, or?
Sure. Yeah, what do you got?
All right, because Kelly brought something up here. Northwestern beat Purdue last year. She leans the under. I took the under first half at 66.5 or something like that, maybe 68. I can't remember, but it's down 2 points wherever I took it. I like that under look. And I had Purdue on my card to begin with last night, and this Northwestern team's just that team that they're just a pest, And if there's a team that's going to be able to come out and knock Purdue off, it's going to be Northwestern. So I think that's a good look. I'm not betting it aside. I just took the first half under. Probably should have taken the full game under, but it is what it is. And I just wanted to bring that up because I saw her mention that.
No, I appreciate it. I thought about that too, because, Purdue wasn't necessarily a great road team last year, and when you kind of look at how their victories came in and where they got things done, it was predominantly on home court. And Northwestern, kind of shocked them a little bit there last year as well. So Northwestern does feel like they're that team that can just kind of disrupt and kind of ruin your weekend. 34% of the bets and 62% of the cash on Northwestern. So Sharper Money agrees. The line opened at 8.5. It's dropped to there's 5.5s out there now. So there's been a ton of steam coming in on Northwestern. The total is 138. It's dropped to 134 with 82% of the bets and 80% of the cash. So the under's very much in play, it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And what Northwestern has to do, and this is how they're going to win the game, is take Zach Edey out of the game, man. Because really, Purdue just has to dump it into him all game. And if they can get him isolated out, like push him out, I think Northwestern could win this game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. It was just one of those spots for me with 9 o'clock. I'm going to be focused on college football tonight. So I was like, do I want to really get too invested on this weird kind of little Friday night card? And I was excited to have you tell us that you wanted to get in here, because I was like, man, that helps, because it's tough to break down. It's a smaller card to begin with. So I love coming at it from different angles and different spots out there. And appreciate you jumping in, my brother. Thanks for your feedback. Thanks for the info. Thanks for the first half looks. I know I'm going to see you this weekend, but I see Empire League Tees. Follow our guy on Twitter. What do you got cooking?
Yeah, man. We're at Who Banging Sports. Don't forget to check out who's Boston the Sauce tomorrow. Get your college championship plays there. I've been doing shows sporadically. I want to get back into it. Usually like 3:45 p.m. Eastern time. So take a follow at Parlay Tees on Twitter. And I'll start announcing them when I start doing them full time again, which I'm hoping to be this week. I had some things going on that I needed to get schedules cleared, but I miss coming on and talking to everybody and just chopping it up college basketball for an hour and giving my looks and hearing what everybody else is on. So keep an eye out for college basketball hangout on Who Bangin' and the other shows on Who Bangin'. And Mike, I appreciate you, and I appreciate Pub, Slaughter, everybody for having me on. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you, my guy. Thanks again for the time. Get yourself that cash this weekend, and I know I'll see you on some live streams coming up soon. So have a great weekend, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Our guy Parlay Tease giving us the goods. I always appreciate him taking the time out. I love connecting. We talk some hockey back and forth and some college women's basketball as well. I'm certainly not afraid to reach out to my guy and say, help me connect the dots with this WNBA stuff. And he does a great job at it. So I appreciate him dropping in here for you guys. Look, we're up against the hour. I want to give you guys a couple of NBA looks here as well before we finish the show off tonight. And it was kind of a real sporadic card for me when it came to the NBA. Look, I just saw that Maxi's out now for the Sixers. Embiid's out for the Sixers. Tough spot to be a Sixers fan. If you were going to play Boston, it was probably the spot earlier. The line opened at 7.5. It's now 12s out there. 68% of the bets and 62% of the cash on the Celtics. I was originally looking at the over, but I downgraded it to a lean when I saw everybody questionable. Now the numbers moved from 224.5 down to 219. 69% of the bets and 49% of the cash on the over. Not a ton to talk about here. Just a situation where these, the as far as the Sixers are concerned, their last number of plays there when they've played against Boston has been kind of whacking them here. They're 1-1, I believe, this season. The number. Celtics are coming off of wins against the Hawks and the Bulls, so I don't know that they're entirely battle hardened, but it takes the fun out of it when you take out your two big guys, and this should be a great battle in the long haul. I will say that the Celtics are 16-1 against the spread when they're at home. If they were home the last game and they won the previous meeting against the spread versus team. So they did beat the Sixers against the spread. They are home from their last game, and it's a 16-1 position, but it's a huge number move now. I mean, it's moved 5 points against where this thing opened up. I just had to downgrade it to a lean. The Sixers lost to the Pelicans, the Embiid sickness thing. There's sickness floating around the locker room. There's our guy, Billy Briz, dropping, and he says Josh Green over 1.5 threes, minus 146. He's taking the ladder, baby, the old ladder challenge here. 3+ for Josh Green, plus 230. 4+ for plus 700. Grizzlies allow the most three-pointers in the NBA, third most in the position. Love it. Love to hear it. Love to see it. Our guy, Billy Briz, dropping the goods. Let's talk about the next game I'm involved with, though, here. I do have an official play on. I'm going to go Orlando Magic. I don't know what you want to say. It's the best team that's covering the spread in the NBA. I understand the thought process here, but I'm going to dispel a couple of rumors for you guys here. A couple of thoughts around what happens if they just played this team. This number opened up at 11. Sitting at, actually, it's down to a 10 now. There's a 10 out there, so we will take that. 75% of the bet, 63% of the cash on the Orlando Magic. The minus 10 is alive at minus 110 at Caesars. And when you're in the rematch spot, right, when you're playing the same team, 17-22 against the spread this year when you lost that previous game. So not necessarily the spot where everybody would think, just take the other side. They won the first one, they'll win the second one. In fact, it's less than a 50% chance that they come out there and get the job done. When you look at the big picture of this thing, though, teams facing the same opponent the last game, 37-1 if the line is shorter than it was the previous game. So the line the previous game opened at minus 9. Now it's minus 10, and even minus 11's out there. So this is a spot where we talk about it saying when they come back for that rematch spot and the books are seeing that number saying, all right, well, we saw what they did the last game. They feel that they have to give them even more points this time around, 37-1 against the spread over a 38-game sample, losing by almost 6 points in the game. The Wizards, when the Wizards got to the foul line 35 times last game, that was a big deal for them, was their season high. They're 0-17 against the spread when they have rest the previous game. So there's a couple of looks for you guys and why I kind of like that Orlando Magic spot. I'm not stupid. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I know it's round. I know it spins. I'm going to jump on it. Orlando's covering the spread at a high rate in the NBA, and I'm going to take advantage. Let's talk about this next game really quick here. Keep things rolling, brisk pace. And we're going to talk about Grizzlies and the Mavericks here. 59% of the bets, 44% of the cash on the Mavericks, right? So the public loves the Mavericks, but what's the number doing? It's dropping. It's dropping like a rock. It went from 7 when I put this together. It's 6 now, and I'm going to lock that 6 in for you guys. I took the Mavericks. I got the 6. I know there's an 0-17 spot for the Mavericks tonight. I'm sorry, I said Memphis. I meant Memphis plus 6. That's the current number that's out there. The Mavericks 0-17 against the spread. If they're facing a team off a win and they were favored by -4 points or more that game that they're playing. So they are still favored at that 6-point spot, still qualifies, still fits. In fact, just as I talk about this game, Fantasy Labs has put out the Grizzlies lineup: Rose, Bane, Roddy, Jackson Jr., and Biomba. It's going to be a spot for me. I'm jumping in on the Memphis spot. And then the last game for you guys, nothing sexy about this one other than just I'm taking a money line. I'm taking it with the Denver Nuggets. For me, it was a great spot looking at this thing, given the injury factor here. You know, I don't know if I'd say injury or just rest. Doesn't look like Booker's playing. It doesn't look like Beal's playing. It's going to be KD that's playing. On the flip side of things, Joker should be good to go. It should be a green light for Joker. So the number that we see on the money line right now is a -130. There's a -130 out there. It has moved a little bit for me. Londo says it as well. Denver money line. I like that spot, Londo. You know, when I looked at this thing here earlier today, you know, they're back on the road. The first back-to-back Western Conference game here for the Suns being back on the road, I should say, right? You know, not a great or not a huge, big road record, I guess I should say here, but I just looked at this thing and I thought, well, Joker's probable, and it looks like, from what I can tell, he's getting the green light. On the other side of things, though, no Beal, I mentioned that. Damian Lee's going to be out. Booker, I think he's questionable, but my indication from what I'm seeing with this number move is that he might not play. At the end of the day, for me, the Suns are in-season tournament wildcards, so they got some things coming up on Tuesday. I think they're going to rest some of these guys, and they're not going to try to push them out and get them in an uncomfortable position. They're going to take their time. They want to win this tournament, and I think that's what it comes down to for me. It's not like a huge sexy play for me. It's just I like the Nuggets. I think they're going to roll here. I do have a Nuggets 0-16 spread position when they're single-digit road favorites if they won the previous game at home by 10 or more points. So that is a concern for me, that road factor out there. I think I flipped that around, but the Suns have won 7 of their last 8 games as well. So the Suns are starting to pick it up and get it back together, but I think these injuries are going to be too much to overcome. So I did lock down the Denver Nuggets, guys. I know we ran a little long. I tried to speed it up there at the end for you guys. Shout out to everybody that rolled up here. Here's Keith. What's up, Mike? And everybody likes Tatum over 27.5 points tonight. Londo says, let's cash it. He likes the Knicks money line too, our guy Londo out there. Likes Boston -6.5. That number's screaming right now, Londo. If you got the 6.5, good for you. Likes the Spurs +13.5. Londo's dropping his whole card out here for us. Love it. Love seeing Memphis +6.5 on that spot with him. Craig Ford says Magic on this 8-game win streak without starting center and point guard. Big factor. We will see what happens. Real Deal Prime, the grinders out there, man, showing up, representing. Appreciate you. EQ, Ian Shaver, Nasty Nate, my guy's going to go and rock his trifecta tonight. I know our guy Billy Briz gave us the goods. Tease dropped in here. Smoke and Mirrors. What's up, my guy Andrew K? The crew, Kelly V, Sharon looks off of her card tonight as well. Everybody came and did their part, guys. Make sure if you haven't done so already, you hit that thumbs up button. We'll give it one last review. We'll give you guys the opportunity to get back out there, get that cash. We got all kinds of things happening this weekend. Should be a lot of fun. We got that New Mexico State spot has started +10.5. We're taking the Ottawa under 6.5. We're taking the San Jose team total over 2.5. Incarnate Word +1.5. I did jump on Indiana -2. Arkansas State +1.5. Kansas -2.5. And I did rock in for the NBA, the Orlando Magic. It's -10 now. We're going to take that -10. Memphis +6. Lost a point there. And then the Denver money line, Denver -130. Good spots for us to get paid. Shout out to our guy T on the 1s and 2s holding it down for us. Shout out to Pub Sports Radio and all you guys in the chat. I hope you guys have a blessed weekend. Get that cash. Get yourself them winning tickets. Get ready to pay for some of those Christmas presents coming up here with a big weekend of victories tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. I'll see you guys around the live stream network here on PSR and such. And again, I hope everybody has a blessed, delicious weekend. Have a ton of fun. Have some cocktails. But more than everything else, get that cash, baby. Let's go. Peace out.